Hoorah! Nova sat there with her guitar in her lap, a blank notebook in front of her, and a pencil in her hand, trying as hard as she could to come up with something. A lyric, a melody, even just a chord progression that didn't sound overused. Well, maybe that last one was inevitable. Nova dropped her pencil and sighed in frustration. And then she sighed once more at the fact that she was so frustrated by something small like this. It wasn't like her. Sunshine. That was who she was. It was the nickname all of her close family and friends referred to her as. She was like a ray of sunshine, lighting up every room she walked into with her smile and positivity. It didn't matter how down someone was feeling. One could bet that they would be smiling after a single conversation with Nova. Her friends would often joke and ask her just how it was that she could possibly be so positive all the time. And her answer was usually along the lines of, "Oh please, you should see me nearly blowing a gasket when my shoes refused to slip off after a long day." The rebuttal usually earned a few laughs, and things would carry on. But Nova knew the real answer to her optimism, and it was simple. Faith. A faith that everything would be okay. An unquestioned belief that she was adaptable enough to be able to go on and figure things out no matter what life threw her way, so long as she kept positive, cleared her mind, and kept moving forward. It was possibly the most lasting and impactful lesson Nova learned from her father growing up. The two of them certainly had their fair share of hard times, but it was really only apparent to Nova once she was an adult and was able to look back on the day-to-day hardships her father faced raising her. But she couldn't remember ever feeling scared or that there was anything wrong while she was growing up. And it was always because no matter what unexpected things happened, her father never changed. He was always there with a smile that assured her everything would be okay. And as she grew older, that was something he always taught her. Unexpected and hard to deal with things were always going to show up, so may as well just accept it, stay positive, and move forward. But now look at her. Sitting on her floor in her room, as frustrated and negative as can be. And ironically, she also hated the fact that she was being so negative. The worst part of it was that she didn't even really know why. Nothing changed. No big defeating experience had happened. Her day-to-day life was the same as always. As a matter of fact, things were actually going quite well. As an indie singer-songwriter, her fan base had been steadily growing, and she was getting ready to go back on tour in a month. Her dreams were coming true right before her eyes, and yet here she was, an internal mess of emotion, sitting in an external mess of a room. She was trying to cheer herself up by doing some songwriting, but even that has become nothing but a frustration. Nova put down her guitar and held her head in her hands with another sigh, this time in realization. This didn't happen overnight. For the past few months, Nova could have noticed an increase in her internal negativity had she been paying attention. But the moment it ever showed itself, she just pushed it aside like always. That was how you stay positive, Nova thought, by ignoring your inner negativity. But then she sighed yet again. No, that wasn't how it was before. Being positive meant finding positivity within negative experiences. It didn't mean ignoring it. Ignoring just meant she wasn't accepting it. Nova leaned back against the side of her bed and her eyes scanned her room. Her clothes were strewn about the floor like always. She definitely wasn't the tidy type. She glanced over to her to-do/victory board where she always posted every little dream she wanted to do and all the ones she had already achieved. It was something that always made her smile and get her pumped and motivated. But even with all of her successes shown right in front of her, right now it didn't cheer her up in the slightest. What the heck was there to accept? Nothing was wrong. Nothing happened. Things were just fine. Better than fine even. Things were great. She was just being a stupid, dramatic baby. Nova's frustration started boiling again, but it was suddenly interrupted when her phone started ringing. She reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. It was, surprisingly, her father. She picked it up and was immediately greeted with a familiar, upbeat voice. "Hey, how's my baby girl doing? Did you get the present I sent you? I hope you haven't opened it yet since your birthday's tomorrow, but I know how impatient you are, so how'd you like it?" Nova just paused as she remembered that it was indeed her birthday tomorrow, but she was feeling pretty slow compared to her father today, so she just replied with, "Hi, Dad." And at that, Nova's father dropped the "my beautiful daughter is another year older" demeanor and got a bit more serious. "Oh dear, what's wrong, Sunshine?" What? What do you mean, Dad? Nothing's wrong," Nova replied. You mean like the time you spilled an entire gallon of milk on the living room floor and came up with as many excuses as you could to try to keep me from walking in there, insisting how everything was fine and that the milk was gone because you were just practicing your chugging skills for a talent show? Nova put a palm up to her face. You're never gonna let me forget about that, are you? Hey, it's an important lesson. The longer you try to avoid your problems, the worse it gets. Until eventually your carpet starts smelling like cheese and you gotta rip out the whole thing. After a long pause, Nova just said, yeah. So come on, talk to me, sunshine. Whatever it is, I'm sure it's not as bad as you think. Remember, there's always a positive way to look at I know! Nova snapped. Well, what if there isn't anything bad at all? What if there is nothing to find the positive side of? What if you just feel like crap for no freaking reason and you're just being I don't even know what. After a pause of silence filled with nothing but the faint static of an open phone call, Nova heard a reply. A human, Nova. Being a human. Nova didn't say anything. Hey, her father continued. Remember that time when you were about 6 or 7 years old and we both woke up early in the morning because it was freezing in the house? Yeah, Nova replied softly. Well, I'm sure you figured out by now that the reason wasn't because the frost fairies enchanted our house as an experiment to learn how us humans keep warm in the winter like I told you. Yeah, we lost our heat because we weren't able to make ends meet that month. We? Nova's dad replied. You mean me. I wasn't able to make ends meet, and you had no choice but to suffer through it. Nova scoffed as if it was a joke. I'd hardly call it suffering. From the magical world you made up for me, huddling up with all the pillows and blankets and building forts, and then getting that little present from the fairies at the end of it, those couple of weeks were nothing but an adventure. It didn't feel scary at all. But nonetheless, that's how I felt, Nova's father said back. All I could see was my inadequacy as a parent. You had done nothing wrong, and yet you had to go to sleep shivering. And I had to wake up every morning praying that you didn't get sick, worrying constantly about how long we would be without heat and what other horrible things could happen. And then on top of all that, having to make sure to make you feel like nothing was wrong. Tough being a parent, I guess, Nova sadly smiled. Damn straight, Nova's father shot back. But even without the sugar-coated reality, I still don't take back what I always told you about staying positive. Because being positive doesn't mean you don't worry, or feel scared, or feel guilty, or feel like crap for no freaky reason. It's freaking, Dad, not freaky. Same difference. The point is, staying positive means accepting what comes your way and moving forward. And that means it's gotta go for everything, including accepting the fact that sometimes you're just not gonna be okay. Sometimes your inner bad thoughts will get the better of you. But that doesn't mean it will be that way forever. It doesn't mean that you stop believing that things will eventually be alright, that things will keep moving forward. Because whether you like it or not, they will. Right as her father's words started soaking in, and she was nearing that aha moment, Nova heard what sounded like a kitchen timer go off on her father's side of the call. A mumbled explicit word shortly followed, before her father started talking to her again, this time with some embarrassed guilt in his voice. Bad timing, sunshine, but see, I'm doing laundry, and you know how this machine gets if you leave it on for the full cycle, so I gotta go reset it. Nova did a facepalm once again as she recalled the old washing machine that would start to shake violently and possibly start spewing soapy water everywhere after 10 minutes of being on. Dad, you still have that washing machine? That is not important right now, Nova's father replied hastily. But what is important was that you heard what I said. Nova paused for a moment before confidently saying, Yeah, Dad, I did hear you. Thanks. After they said their goodbyes and Nova's dad made her promise to call him tomorrow to let him know what she thought of his present, the two hung up the phone just as the aging washing machine could start to be heard shaking in the distance. And once again, there was just Nova and silence. She took a few moments just leaning against her bed and staring at the ceiling, listening to the gentle, wispy sound of the heating vent that must have turned on while she was on the phone. Her father's words replayed in her head, with one particular line sounding louder than the rest. Accepting the fact that sometimes you're just not going to be okay. Sometimes you're just not going to be okay. And that's okay. That was it. Nova's aha moment had reached her at last. Sunshine, Nova quietly said to her ceiling. That was more than her cute nickname. It was who she convinced herself she was. She was the one to bring people up, the one to always bring the smile, the one that could stay optimistic even if everyone in the room had given up. So what would it mean if all of a sudden she couldn't be that anymore? How many people would she be letting down? A lot. And as her life and career grew across more and more lives, the more people she had that were looking forward and expecting sunshine. It was no wonder this had been building up inside her. She had slowly lost her faith that everything would be okay, because she convinced herself that it wasn't okay to be negative. And as she gained more in her life, she also gained that much more to lose. Nova chuckled a little. It was funny how, when she had nothing, it seemed so easy for her to be optimistic, because she had nowhere to go but up. But now that she was starting to build something important to her, something she could lose, it was incredibly scary. So much could go wrong. It was something on her mind all the time. But that was okay. It wasn't something to ignore and punish herself for worrying about. It was okay to worry. It was okay to be afraid. It was okay to be a complete mess sometimes, because all that meant was that she cared. Right at that moment, Nova heard her doorbell ring. When she went to open her door, she was greeted by the mailman who was carrying a large box, wrapped in the most ostentatious yellow and blue wrapping paper that practically screamed, "I'm a present, please steal me if you happen to be walking by my door." But thankfully, the mailman, who was clearly thinking the same thing, was kind enough to take the time to knock, even though he didn't require a signature. When Nova brought it inside, she saw it was addressed to Sunshine. She didn't even have to look at the return address to know it was from her father. He was the only one who would actually go as far as addressing something to her using her nickname. Plus, the wrapping job had his name written all over it. This must have been the present he had called her up about. Her birthday was tomorrow, but knowing her father, he was more anxious and excited for her to open it than she was. And since he thought she opened it already anyway, what the heck. She tore through the wrapping paper and cut through the tape that was keeping the box shut. And inside was the most beautifully painted hard-shell guitar case she had ever seen. It was painted all over, making a scene of a sunshiny day with perfect blue skies. She pulled it out and popped open the latches. And inside was a ukulele. And a folded note that said, "Ha! You thought there would be a guitar in here, didn't you?" Oh, this was just so her dad, Nova thought. The note read that he got her the guitar case since she only had a gig bag, and she kept banging up her favorite guitar whenever she went on the road. And the ukulele was because the person he hired to paint the case happened to have one that she was trying to sell anyway and gave him a good deal. Nova laughed. Only her dad took pride in telling the person he gives a gift to how much of a good deal he got on it. But either way, it was a beautiful and great-sounding instrument. Nova kept reading through and got to the sappy parent part of the letter, talking about how proud he was of her, how crazy it was that she had grown up so fast, wishing her a happy birthday, and telling her to always remember to keep looking forward and be positive. But unlike all of her previous sappy dad birthday letters, this one had one last line that gave Nova a bit of a chill, as if she just had déjà vu. And it read, "Just don't you forget to also be kind to yourself. Remember, even the sun can't shine all the time." How does he do that, Nova thought. This was not the first time her father had somehow magically known exactly what to say at exactly the right moment without any prior information. And this time he said it days ago and sent it through the mail, and yet it still arrived at exactly the right moment. Clearly there was something mystical going on here, she joked with herself. Maybe those frost fairies weren't as made up as she thought. Nova's humorous train of thought came to an abrupt halt, and she lifted her head as if a light bulb went off. She looked back down at the last line of the letter. Even the sun can't shine all the time. Now that would make one heck of a good song lyric. Y'all have no idea how many times I messed up saying, "Even the sun doesn't shine all the time." I kept on saying, "Even the sunshine doesn't shine." like so many times. Hello, I'm Zaccura, and thank you for listening to my story of November. If you're new here, then this is part 11 in a currently ongoing series where I attempt to create characters based off of each month as well as write a little story for them. So you just listen to November's story, and I'll have the playlist that has the rest of the videos in this series linked up in the card as well as in the description box. So if you want some more story time, you can go and check those out. But for now, time for the chatty part of this video. So, woohoo! Barely made it this month. Like, whew. Zaccura, you had me going there. I know you like to cut these things close, but I thought we weren't going to make it there for a moment. But yes, as you guys probably know, I have been very busy this month. It's kind of hard to think that I literally set up my IndieGoGo campaign to publish my Inktober story only a few weeks ago. It feels like it's been so much longer, and yet at the same time it feels like it went by way too fast. Y'all can figure out how that logic works. But yes, I barely had time to sit down and focus on writing this month's story, so it was pretty rushed. There were definitely some sentences that were like a mile long and were pretty awkward to have to narrate, but I got it done, so yay! So the meaning for the month of November was faith, and also like being loyal, like loyalty, which didn't really get shown in the story at all. But I imagine that Nova is a very loyal person, so that means something, clearly. It's canon. And so when I saw Faith, I knew that I wanted November's character to be very positive and optimistic, because I thought that one thing that keeps a person positive is to know that everything will be okay. So if someone could faithfully believe that no matter what, everything's gonna be okay, then they'd be pretty upbeat, methinks. Another big reason for the positivity thing is because none of the other characters in this series really are. I mean, they're not like all a bunch of emos, only Febby is. They're very normal, I guess, because that is kind of the point of these stories. I want the characters to be very real and normal and kind of show the deepness and intrigue of normality, I guess. Just, you know, about things that we kind of all deal with all the time. But I figured, you know, we have all, I'm sure, known that one person, or maybe you are that person, who is just a ray of sunshine. They are just so positive and optimistic, but not necessarily like in an annoying way, but it's just like, it's impossible to not smile when they're in the room. And I figured, why not make a character like that? But the more I thought about it, the more I found a huge difficulty with making a story around that, because if everything is all lovely and happy and wonderful, then where's the triumph? Or where's the struggle, you know, like the things that make a story? So I had to put on my deep thinking cap, or beanie, I guess. Is this the secret behind Zaccura's beanie? No, it's not. Or is it? Anyway, I had to get deep again and think about what kind of struggles an infectiously positive... Infectiously? Yeah, that is how you say it. Infectiously positive person could face. And I thought, well, staying positive all the time could kind of be that struggle, because it doesn't matter how positive you are, everyone is human. Everyone has their ups and downs. So if someone had built a life around being that optimistic, positive person, then it could mean feeling pressure to always be that ray of sunshine. There you go. Deep stuff. And I mean, I think everyone there's a truck going by. And I mean, I think everyone has felt that way to a certain extent before, because it's just sort of like thought that it makes you strong to just suck it up and always be positive, and if you don't, then that is often seen as a sign of weakness, and often more so to the actual person who's feeling down rather than the people around them. You know, because we all don't want to be the downer, the one person to bring everyone all into a sad place by bringing up their issues to everyone. And it's super normal to feel like we need to sort of hide those things a bit. But sometimes it can go farther than just, keeping your personal issues private. It can sometimes really affect people, to constantly feel like it's bad to feel bad. Like that is somehow a wrong thing. Because everyone feels bad. If we weren't supposed to feel bad, then we wouldn't have that emotion. And so that was where the struggle and drama came in for the story. And overall, I'm alright with the story. Not my favorite, have issues, like always, but it's alright. Also, there was a lot of dialogue between Nova and her dad, which were both, obviously voiced by me, so that was strange to jump back and forth. And I don't know what was with that slight change in my accent when I did the dad's voice, and it was very inconsistent and slightly cringy, if not very cringy, but whatever. It's fine. It's finished. As for the illustration, I'm actually quite happy with this month's illustration. It's actually one of my personal favorites of the ones so far. However, I had an issue with Nova's jacket being yellow and the stone in the background also being yellow because I don't have that many different hues of yellow like in my Copic set. So they are very similar, if not like the exact same color, exact same hue of yellow, and so her jacket doesn't really stand out from the background. But nonetheless, I like how everything turned out. So there you go. The flowers for the month, or rather the flower, since November actually only has one flower for the month, and that is, here we go, chrysanthemum. Chrysanthemums. The colors for the month were yellow, red, and dark blue, and the birthstone was topaz, or citrine. It kind of has two. But yellow topaz and citrine look almost like exactly the same. But I like the name topaz better, so I see it as topaz. Canon, not citrine. It's topaz. Because I mean, you guys have played fantasy games, and I'm sure you've seen topaz as like a gem that you embed into things to give them magical powers, But I'm willing to bet you never saw no citrine, so topaz is clearly the winner. What am I talking about? So anyway, the flower, chrysanthemum, comes in various colors, so I chose red since I knew the stone would be yellow. Then I put just a little dark blue in Nova's outfit by making her leggings and shirt blue. And I don't know if any of y'all may have picked up on this, but Nova's design was actually carried over from a painting I did earlier this year when I tried out some metallic gold ink. I'll have that video linked in the card if you guys are interested, but yeah, I really like the concept of that illustration where she had like the golden feathers in her hair, and since Nova is a musician, I also figured the headphones from that illustration were fitting, so yeah. And of all the monthly characters, I feel like Nova is the one that I could actually do something with. Like, she has a cool name, which I feel would be actually really fitting and cool for a musician, and her design is kind of neat, so I could totally see myself like just drawing her like randomly. And I know that with the fluffy coat and the red stuff on the fluffy coat, it kind of looks a bit Christmassy for some reason. And some of you may be like, why the winter coat to begin with? I mean, it's only November, but where I am, it has been freezing lately. It was like 20 degrees on Thanksgiving, and that's actually why, if you noticed my beautiful dinosaur fleece sleeves in this video, it's because at some point in this video, I got cold, and it was the closest thing to me. There you go. Don't judge. You know it's amazing. So anyway, it has been really cold, so that probably inspired me to give her a winter coat, and it was fun to paint all of those diamond plaits. Also, these zodiac signs, which I like almost always forget in like every single video, for the month were Scorpio and Sagittarius. Now, as for the name, it's a bit weak, admittedly, this month, since it doesn't actually play on the whole month. It doesn't have November, all in there somewhere. But it's probably pretty obvious. Nova, November. Yes, cool, similar, kind of, it's a name. Yeah, there you go. And that will about do it for this month's video. And there's only one left. What? I can't believe I've been doing this series every single month all year long, and I can't believe we are actually approaching the finish line. It's crazy. I thought this was just like life now. And I know you guys are probably kind of curious what I'm gonna do with this project once it's all finished, and I do have a plan, but I'm gonna have to leave you guys on a cliffhanger because I will be talking about that next month. Mwahaha. For now though, even though this is unrelated to the monthly characters, as I mentioned before, all month I have been running a crowdfunding campaign to publish my very first storybook called Zig's Journey. And today, as I'm recording this voiceover, even though I don't know if this video will be going up on the 29th or the 30th, but morning of November 29th, we hit 100% on the funding goal for that campaign. I'm going to be talking about it, that more in a future, more dedicated video to that, but I just wanted to take a second to thank everyone so very much for supporting that. I can't believe still that it really happened, and I can't wait to be able to send you guys who back the project the book. It will, of course, take a bit of time due to the time it takes to send and confirm the files with the printer, and to actually print and ship the books to me, and then to sign and ship them all out to you guys. But now that we hit 100%, I can actually say it will happen, which is amazing. And I will, of course, keep everyone updated with everything on any progress and yada yada. I have a lot of work to do, but I am just so excited and I can't wait to get this thing done. So just thank you all so much for the incredible support. It means the world. And if you are watching this and you'd like to get yourself a copy of the book, the campaign is still running until December 11th, so you can go and grab yourself one still. The link to the campaign page is in the description box. And thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please be sure to give it a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what did you think of this month's story and this month's illustration. I always love reading what you guys think. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on upcoming videos. I make new videos every week, usually uploading on Sundays, but sometimes I upload away from that schedule, like this time, because I either make extra videos or I'm late with a video. And yeah, so hit the bell. Because YouTube also really, I don't know about notifications. Who needs notifications anymore, am I right? If you'd like to follow me on social media, all the links to that are in the description box, where you can follow me for daily updates. And until next time, stay awesome, stay inspired, always. See ya!